Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Inlay Terms. I am your host, Payman Ascari, and joining me today is my good friend, Mr. Kris Eriksen. Welcome, Kris.
Thanks for having me again, Payman. It's a pleasure.
You're always welcome, Kris. Tell me where's your head at right now? How are you? How are you feeling after what happened?
I was in a bad spot 2 days ago, and a fairly heavy day yesterday for sure. Trying to process it at the same time, having responsibilities, and just trying to figure out what just happened. Right, it was very difficult. Today I'm doing better. I think that yesterday I had to put something out there. Like you'll notice with my page, I'm not sharing all of the left's craziness, not all the left's, but sharing the people that are saying they're celebrating, and I'm not on the other side. I'm not going to share people calling for war. I kind of just step back and try and quantify what's actually happening. And I've been, like I was saying before, it's like I've been in situations where, as an advocate, you lose people quite often within the marginalized communities and with the homeless and drug addicts and stuff like that. And there's always that sense of heaviness because, you're not going to see that face anymore. You're not going to hear that voice anymore. But it wasn't necessarily for me. I look around and I can see the weight on the community because I was kind of always an outsider, but I feel it, my empathy, my compassion for people. And so yesterday it was like I had to put a post out simply saying I feel very heavy today. And about 2 o'clock my time, I just came into my room and I hit the pillow and I was out for 2 hours, and I woke up though, looked at the ceiling and took a couple of deep breaths. And I'm like, okay, we got to get back up. We had that We Unify speakers spotlight last night that was on leadership and sacrifice. And for me, it's kind of always been the mentality. It's not, you can't repress it. You have to process it. If you repress it, then it's just going to become heavier and heavier and heavier. But for me, getting back up and saying, okay, there's people counting on me. I want to be there for people. I want to be one of the voice of calmness through this part of it, because I know it's not easy for people. Emotions are running high on both sides. And I think that we're at the point in time now where there's so much we can learn from what happened, but it's got to be a steady, a slow, hey, I can't come on here and be over, oh, everything's going to be fine. Everyone, let's get back on the horse. We ride at dawn, that there's like a measured approach to it. And I think that, I'm feeling it. Everyone's feeling it. But there is, it's a turning point here where we can have that opportunity to come together to take a look at what's in front of us, and the voice of reason has to be able to have a place. And that's what I think Charlie Kirk was. I think he was a voice of reason. At least he was willing to listen to both sides. He had his opinions, but you should be allowed to do that. You should be allowed to have opinions without having that kind of an end come. And for me, the problem was on X, because when it first happened, everyone's like, is this real? Is this real? And I'm seeing things. I don't want to get too much into this, but eventually I saw some up close things, and it was like a loop, and I kind of got stuck in it, right? Thinking, wow, a man at his age, 31, beautiful family, talking, you look at the size of the crowds that he developed over the years, as far as young people looking to him for guidance and wisdom. He was a thought leader, potentially a future president, if you take a look at the way things could have gone for him. And so now we're in a situation where his voice is gone. And I think it's up to all of us that have that voice of reason to not cower in fear, to not bend a knee, to get back up, tighten our shields, but not charge in a war mentality, because that's not going to help us either. We have to be able to take this as an example to say, okay, we have a lot of heavy lifting that we still have to do, but it's a lot easier when you're not lifting that alone. And so yesterday, it's like, yeah, I showed up, and the space had a few technical glitches, but it was great. We had Tom Marazzo on, Jeff Evely, Nadine Ness, Amy Ham, Matt Alexander, Clyde Do Something. Like, so many people came on, and these are all people that have put themselves out there regardless of risk. And one of my questions I always had was for leaders is, what was that moment? And did you look at yourself in the mirror? Was it a conversation with your wife? Like, what was that moment where you knew that there was going to be risk, but you had to stand your ground on principle? You had to do what you felt was right. And oftentimes, man, in our world, doing the right thing is the hardest path. I'd love to be in a situation, where doing the right thing is what society, and everyone can define right in a different way. I know it's subjective, but at the same time, just wanting the best for, the people in Canada, wanting families to have an opportunity to grow and have a high quality of life without being at each other's throats all the time. And I think that, I'll wrap it up there, but I think the heaviness is less today because I went for a walk on the beach and I talked to the universe, and I had my, the first, I'm sure, of many conversations where I'm trying to understand, what happened and what's next. And, if there is a silver lining there, I think hopefully that people can realize that what we're in is very serious. We are facing something that is dark, but we have to keep shining our light. And I know how hard it is sometimes to get up, but you have to get to that mountain mentality in a sense, Captain America, I can do this all day because I'm not doing it for me. You're not doing, to a degree, it's like, yeah, this is principle. I got to look at myself in the mirror. I have a voice. If I can contribute and people want to listen to me, fantastic, but I can't, but I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for your family. I'm doing it for everybody else that kind of believes in that sanity. Right. And so, yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks though for having me again.
No, no worries. I got some questions about your views on Charlie Kirk. But first, I want to get your vision. I want to ask you, what is your vision for Canada? What kind of Canada do you want to live in? I'll let you know what my vision is, so so you can prepare to how to answer it. Like I want to live in a country, in a Canada, where most of the decisions are made by the family, not by the government. So 90% of the decisions are made by the family, 9% are made by the municipality, 1% by the provincial or federal government. Like that's broadly speaking the world I want to live in. Everything else can fall into place afterwards. If you were going to pitch your vision for Canada, or how do you see where we're going? Where should Canada go? What kind of Canada do you want to live in?
Well, part of, for me, like I've said many times, I used to carry the Charter of Rights and Freedoms on my backpack. I didn't realize how weak that document was until it mattered in 2020. But that's what I believe. I was raised to respect individuals' perspectives, respect the individual, regardless of race, color, creed, sexuality. It was again, content of character was what mattered to me. I agree with everything you said as far as how big should government be, what should they be involved in. And I think we've gone so far off, even the Diefenbaker quote, I'm Canadian, free to speak my mind, and this was what I pledged for all mankind. I believe those words. I don't want to have us in a situation where, people ask me all the time, is it too far gone? And I can't answer that, right? I've run so many scenarios. Some of them are positive. Some of them are dark as far as what direction are we heading, because we don't know for sure where we're heading. If Canadians don't stand up, if Canadians don't find their backbone to be able to say, there's no change comes without sacrifice. And I'm not saying grab your pitchforks, let's charge Parliament. I'm one of the first people that will say, I know exactly how that's going to go. That's what they want. It's not going to work. But we have to figure out a way to bridge our divides on, I would say, like, there's moderate, there's left, we have all these labels and stuff like that. But a lot of it, the moderate right to the far right, if you want to call it that. But I'm saying people on the conservative side, regardless whether you're PPC, CPC, libertarian, whatever it is, we spend way too much time fighting with each other, way too much time, and I think I think that to me is like the number one thing that's holding us back from having a large presence to send messages. We're having a protest tomorrow. I can't make it. I'm out west like you, but we're going to see tomorrow, how many people show up, because I still think there's a lot of fear there. But if we are in a position in our country where we're fearful to speak out, where we're fearful to protest, right, then we're in a lot darker place than I think a lot of people realize. And so for me, I just kind of want to take a look at it. It's like, I want the loopholes, right? I want the loopholes in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms removed. I want it to be solid. I don't want privileges from my government. Like, that is ridiculous to think that on a whim, the government can do whatever we want. Your family, my family, everyone's at risk. We just have to bend the knee. We can't ask any questions. We have these people hissing at us behind masks with the beady eyes that are freaking out because I'm not wearing one, even though I know that, I should have that personal choice and the science in relation to it. So I think we've gone so far off the cliff, but a lot of it's been manufactured. I think a lot of the division, is constantly manufactured in this country through the media, through the words of the liberals and the silence of the Conservative Party. Like, I think we have kind of been trapped. The people in the middle that are kind of just saying, what the hell is going on here? Why is everyone so insane on both sides? Like, why are you silent? And I get these excuses. Like, I used to engage, like trying to wake people up and stuff. And I'm kind of like, when I left X last month, when I came back, I'm like, I can't really do that anymore. Sure, I'll poke. I will poke every now and again, but there's so much trauma payment that's going on right now. And I don't think unless we heal the trauma, we're not going to be able to find our strength. And that's, I think a lot of it's been by design through the process. Incrementally, no matter what happens, they have us in an anxious state, a fearful state. The left is insanely enough, the left is very organized in regards to putting their differences aside. And yeah, I don't agree with how they go about doing it, but they're very organized. And on the right, I don't even think I'm on the right. Like, I'm in the middle, literally in the middle, like I have most of my life. And I'll listen to both sides, and good ideas are good ideas, bad ideas are bad ideas. But when you try to organize from a centrist position to the right, there's so much division, man. And I'm not just talking like political division. I'll speak specifically to X. There are so many people on X that I'm friends with. They don't get along. It's none of my business. Again, like what I'm doing with Night Call, it's none of my business, but I am encouraging people. If there's like a line, and I have that as well too with a few people on X, where they're the betrayal. I can't trust you. And so irreconcilable differences on that front as far as interacting with each other. But I know there's many circumstances where, yeah, I could be standing next to you, support you, and then go back to our own corners and not have to interact. But there's a lot of people, I think, that to me, some people might take offense to this. It's like high school. It is literally like high school. So many things that happen on X that divide us make no sense to me, because in the end, what we're facing, what's more important? And I think if most people will go to 40,000 feet, look at your differences and say, okay, this one I can probably make amends on. Send a DM, end it, come together if you possibly can. I encourage that. And where you can't come together, then just leave the other person alone. Don't spend your whole day going after them and in the drama, the cesspool. We are seriously in a dark place, and many people are in a dark place. And I'm a combat medic. I'm on the field. I want to try and help as many, hurt as few while I'm here. And I think that, if more Canadians had that level of selflessness, put your ego aside, put your differences aside. I've been in communities as an organizer, man. I'll just finish on this and I'll come back to you. I would be in auditoriums and there'd be 150 people. And, there was a lot of tension between some groups here, some people sitting here, and I would let them stand up and say your piece, about what we were trying to accomplish. And that was the difference between now. I can't do that here. When I was community organizing, there was always a not-for-profit or something was happening in the community where you could say, this is our goal. We want the abuse to stop. We want, this and this. We have goals, mutual goals that we can come together on. On X, it's very hard because so many people are, there's still a lot of people are still in a traumatized state. They're fearful, they're anxious for many reasons, right? But how do you cut through that to get people to realize that not only do they have value and something to contribute, but they also need to put their ego aside and make amends where you can, so that we can come together and support each other whenever possible. But I'm also not, I have no I understand that sometimes people aren't just going to get along and they have this I have no interest. And I have a couple, like I said, but I'm not going to, that's between me and them. They know what they did. It's not for me to air publicly. And that's kind of what I've been encouraging with what I've been working on is let's see if we can come together, figure out a way to highlight and support each other, even if we don't agree. And hopefully, it's kind of like one of those things. I don't want to tell people what to do, but if I can lead by example and other people agree with me on that, I'm just going to stay the course. I'm just going to keep being me and keep swinging, of course. But at the same time, I want to help people. I want to help people at least start the healing process and help people learn how to live and how to re-engage in this world that I don't recognize anymore for the most part. So that was a long one, man. Sorry.
No, it's fine, man. It's your episode. Before moving on, anyone in the audience, if you have a question, especially if you disagree with Mr. Eriksen, put it in there and we'll read it out. If you have a comment, I'll bring it up. I love interacting with the audience. Kris, I wanted to let's explore this more. I said, what's your vision for the country? I look at the country and I see three groups. So you have two wings that are authoritarian. On the left, we call them globalists. I hate them,
Mhm.
but those people that are globalists, they probably view it something like this. We are all, we're all, unique, but we're all same, the same. It doesn't matter where you're born. We can move around, and we should get along. Besides, putting aside our ethnic, racial differences. On the other hand, you have the nationalists who say, we have to have a strong nation with strong institutions to protect ourselves from whatever outside threats like globalism, free trade. Both of those guys believe in a strong government. Then we have what you called the middle, and I'm starting to recognize that I'm in that group. And the people in the middle, like we'll ally with the left. Right now, we're allying with the right to achieve what we want. But it seems like I don't want either of those. I, I align with the nationalists a little bit more. It makes more logical sense. But I want a smaller government. How do you view it? How do you see yourself aligning with both sides?
Well, I think because before the 2019, I would have been because I always kind of, if I have to label myself, would have been a classical liberal, right? And like the last party that asked me to run for them provincially was the Green Party, right? So it shows you, because I think it was because a lot of the work with First Nations, I think that they kind of thought, okay, um, that would be a good fit. No, like to me, it's like I'm not. I'm in the middle. Yeah, I helped out my buddy in 2019 as a liberal. I was very angry when the emails started coming in because I didn't sign up for that. He was a buddy of mine. I was just trying to help. But being in the center is, I don't want to say it's the safe spot, because it honestly is the one. You got both sides hating you in a sense. For me, you're calling out the right, the left supports you, the right hates you. You call out the left, it's like this pendulum keeps swinging back and forth. But in the middle, it's like, if we can't get to that point, it's almost like we've got to be adults, right? It's like emotional maturity is a huge part of this. It's like, yeah, just because we have a conservative government, or we have a liberal government now, but the problem with this government is they're only governing for liberals. They're ignoring, and the conservatives are the enemy, right? And so everyone gets put off to the side. And I think that that's a problem with our country, is that conservatives get in, the liberals are angry, and we go back and forth, back and forth. And I think in the middle there is common ground to be found, not on everything. Right? Do I? Of course, I want our national sovereignty. I don't want globalist entities having control or a say with what goes on in our country. I want to make sure that people come to this country are signing up to assimilate, that they want to be a part of Canada, that they see the charter or a constitution and they say to themselves that I can align with. That doesn't mean they have to give up their culture or their faith, but there's a level of from when I was growing up, there was a lot of assimilation. I still have good friends. Like even in where I live today, I'm running into Indo-Canadians. I'm running into people with different backgrounds. It doesn't matter to me. Are you friendly, content of character? Can I understand you when I speak? Are you making the effort? But at the same time, I think that the polarizing side, this is kind of what the problem is. The radicals on the left, like the very far left and the very far right, I can't see, I can try to empathize with their positions, but I can understand that everybody that from the moderate, the regular right, the moderate, the regular left, the moderate, to the middle, they're being now run by both extremes. The extremists on the left seem to have all the microphones, right? As we see it. And then on the extreme right, if you want to call it extreme right, I cannot support rounding up everybody that's got a different skin color than me and sending them back to whatever, right? I cannot get into that mentality. And obviously anarchy is not going to work. So having a small government, I kind of have the Ron Paul libertarian approach to governance, as far as what government should be there for, to maintain the roads, to police, fire, right? Not this nepotistic cesspool that we see in our parliament, where it's like, it's called the House of Commons. It's supposed to be commoners that go there, they put their time in, they serve their country, and then they go back to the farm. You know what I mean? Like that was like what it was designed for now.
The
And now we have,
Cincinnati approach.
right? And now we have a situation where they're all making over $200,000. All of their expenses are paid for. No one asks them the hard questions. They're not accountable to anybody, right? Because they all play this game within that. And I come from that world to a degree. Like I worked at the BC legislature for the speaker when he was an independent. But you see the same thing, the sense of entitlement, the sense of looking down on the people. And then you realize, wait a second, they don't swear allegiance to those that elect them. They swear allegiance to the king. So what are we doing here, guys? Like, if we're electing people, how much of what we are dealing with right now is an illusion? And that was like a wake-up call for me too. It's not like I always kind of knew that was the case, right? But now we're in a situation where there's such a distance between these elitist politicians, the ones that are making decisions, and are not held accountable at all, ever, because our institutions, we could easily argue, we could spend a whole hour on, are Canada's institutions subjugated, or that have they been taken over, subverted, sorry. And we can make that argument that I believe that they have been, by this same type of nepotistic conflict of interest, sense of entitlement, where we are nothing to them. They view us as less than nothing. And that's a very precarious position to be in as a Canadian that just cares. Like, seriously, it was funny, right? March 19th, I guess it was March 20th that they dropped in 2020. Well, March 19th, I was loved by the left, right? The NDP, Liberals, Greens and stuff. I had respect of the Conservatives because I have traditional values in that sense, right? So it's not like, that's why I say I don't like labels, right? But I at least respect, because I've done a lot of work for the left in that sense, right? But as soon as I wouldn't go along with it and wanted to ask questions, now I'm far right. How does this happen, Payman, right? Because of that ability for them to be very hegemonic in telling us what we think, having all the microphones. So people like me and you are stuck in the middle going, the hell is going on here? Like, everything's turned upside down. I believe I'm a good man. Like I said before, I try to help as many and hurt as few. But I'm principled in that sense, where if I see something that doesn't make sense, or if I see someone being harmed, I don't go, well, can you show me? Are you a Green Party member? Because I can't help you. You're on the other side, so you mean nothing to me. And so what I think, for me, what matters to me is that we start humanizing people again, not focus on the dehumanizing, which is what the mandate has been from, I don't even want to say it's the Liberals, because again, I think they've been taken over, and even the Conservatives, I could say, you got too many globalists in there, guys, what's going on? And I asked that question, I pointed out, and I get hissed at from the right. And it's like, no, it's like, okay, what if you're wrong? Have a backup plan, because it doesn't look like anybody in Parliament is representing common decency anymore. There's no Diefenbaker mentality in there, that you'll speak your mind. Everyone's doing their polls and won't say anything until they feel like they have enough support publicly. I want politicians that speak their minds, right? And right now, the left, whatever you want to call them, has created this, you can't say that because they'll get mad at you on CBC. And I'm like, I used to work with people, and I'm like, say it. Because you want CBC to attack you, say it. Get on there, because you know they're going to attack you. Get on there and defend your position. Speak to Canadians. Don't be a pussy. Get in there. Show yourself. Sorry for the language. Show yourself for who you are, and let the cards fall where they may. And right now, everyone's playing a game. Most Canadians, don't realize it's a game. But I think that there's something happening now where I think that there's an opportunity for us to really start focusing on putting our differences aside and not playing their game anymore. And it all starts with being active locally within your community, having the courage to get on stage. If you want to be a school board member, get on there, because you need people to challenge them. In municipalities, do you want a city council full of people that are doing a full green agenda and causing massive traffic problems because they have bike lanes where they shouldn't be? These ridiculous things, these 15-minute cities where, the cities are getting smaller and smaller. People aren't going to eventually be able to have cars. It's just so much of it makes, I understand it, because no one's getting on the stage. You ran, right? Like you said, the other day on the space, you're like, I was the only person that brought up that mass immigration might be a problem, right? And you get those looks from people, right? And it's like, okay, so if I look, what's the 6 degrees of separation? Are you loyal? Who are you loyal to, right? Do you know what your principles are? Do you know what your values are? Are you standing for them? Or have you made a bunch of quid pro quos through your career so they can install you and then be told what to think as far as what, who owns you when you get into politics, right? And if you can get into politics and not be owned, it's not an easy road, but at least it's a lot more fun when you can get up on stage, like I saw with a bunch of PPCers. I was just like, yes. To me, I'm sitting there, right? Then I understand the machine of the Conservatives and the Liberals, massive machine. Like, I think they still have access to way too much data. But I'm sitting there, and I'm at the back of the room, the guy in the suit, right, leaning up against the wall, and I'm listening to the PPCer get up there, and after won a couple of the debates, I'm just like, so, I asked my buddy, like, what'd you think? And he's like, he made me very uncomfortable. And it's like, that's what needs to happen. Because a lot of those people that are on the stages, whether it's municipal, federal, provincial, school boards, a lot of people that get on stage, they're not used to being challenged, right? Everyone seems to have the same narrative, which I think is extremely creepy and dangerous for democracy, if you want to call us that, right? So I love the disruptors, the people that have that willingness to to get on stage regardless of what the response is going to be, because you care about your country, you want to help communicate. And I'm sure that fella, both in Abbotsford and Chilliwack, different guys, I'm sure they planted seeds above and beyond the people in the audience looking at each other. Who the is this guy, right? The Conor McGregor. But it was nice, and that's what I think it is. We have to have people like yourself, and I'll mention John Paul Berg here, that are willing to step up, say what their piece is. And again, Tom Razzo, Matt Alexander. There's a long list. Nadine Ness, Amy Ham. There are people out there that are putting themselves out there, knowing the sacrifices they're making to their careers, to their futures. But if we don't, then we're handing it to them. So I'm hoping Canadians get feisty, not angry, right? But take the anger and turn it more into action, as opposed to, allowing yourself to be consumed by this abyss that they want us to be spinning in. So I have hope for the future. I do know that it's going to be hard, but it's all about attitude, right? Keeping our wits, not playing the game. And you can think it, go F yourself. You don't have to necessarily broadcast that to the world. Yeah, I'm hopeful, but I think that, I'm in the middle with you, man. The left has some good ideas. The right has some good ideas. Tell the radical people to so we can get to work as adults. It would be a beautiful place to live, Payman. I believe that. Oh, but you have to wrap crime scene tape around Parliament so we can get all the. If I was there, man, I would walk in. Yeah. Well, I would say what I would like to see, right? Like what needs to happen. And if anyone's watching, I'll more than happily do it. I'll walk into Parliament and tell every single person in that room, politician, bureaucrats, get out, leave your phones and your tablets in your office on the door. I want all of it, lock it down. You're all corrupt. Because again, they didn't deal with the foreign interference. We got, whether it's China, India, WEF, all these, whatever, the list is so long, and they just pretend that it never happened. And so to me, until we get the foreign interference dealt with, nobody in that building is actually working for Canadians. And, in order for us to actually have a country, it might be a good discussion, not 51st state, but the American Constitution is a document that is a powerful document. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But each state has constitutional sheriffs. There's far more protection to the individual citizen in that regard, along with the Second Amendment and other things as well too. But right now we're so vulnerable, man, that we have to learn to dance in a minefield. And, I think many of us are getting there, understanding that, yes, the storm is dark, but we have to have people through that process that are shining light without fear, period. Like, that's really what it comes down to. You overcome your fear and anxiety. Understand that if you want to get on that stage, you belong there. They don't want you there. That's why you have fun with it. Articulate, don't swear, and make sure that you can dance with them, but challenge them at every opportunity. And you'll be articulate with your challenges. At the same time, we have to get off the couch. We got to get in the game. And I'm going to do everything I can to highlight people like you and others that are doing the good work. I want to try and bring as many people as I can together and support them. And that's not going to be easy either. But at the same time, just because it's hard, you don't want to try. It's like, nah, let's do this. So we'll see. Again, another long-winded one.
No, it's fine, man. It's all you. I just want to quickly go to some of the audience comments. So Youssef says shalom. Youssef, if you write something in English, I'll be happy to read it. I can't read. I'm assuming that's Hebrew, Yiddish. John Paul, our friend JP Berg, in the time of great polarization, the nuanced perspective is hated the most. If you want to comment on that.
Love JP. Keep up the good work, buddy. I agree with you 110%. We'll work together to help crack the shadow bands. So yeah, great guy. If you don't follow JP, follow JP.
He's I think I did an episode with him yesterday. And Andre Maloche, a fellow co-host of mine, Canadians are like deer caught in the headlights of a car, the mainstream media. They are hypnotized, and there is nothing that can be done to wake them up. Let the dead take care of the dead.
I mean, okay. The last, I have great respect for Mr. Maloche. I've seen him on, I think he's been on your show a few times. Very smart man. But I agree with him. Like, I spent from, except for the last statement, I would articulate it differently, right? And maybe I'll do that right now. I think it's one of those things where, I spent from November to, I guess it was part of the reason I left X for a little while, was because I was like, okay, We got to wake people up, and but I spent like 5 years trying to do that. On one side, stand your ground, the other side, push. There are a lot of people that are never going to wake up, right? But there are millions of us that are awake. There are millions of us that have experienced different levels of trauma that we have to address. We have to be able to work through that, because no one's coming when it comes to that. That's one of the main reasons why I get angry at Parliament. It's like, you did this to people, all ages. We can spend another hour on that, but the trauma is real, and we have to be able to address it so that people can heal, so they can find themselves again. Because that's the problem, right? Is that you're not only were you traumatized, every other day there is something that they continue to poke you with. And I've made this reference before. In MMA, you faint, constantly faint. People to overload the nervous system. At the same time, you want to understand how their body moves so that you can be able to use their reactions to be able to counterattack. And in this situation, it's been one punch after another, like one feint constantly every day, man. You're dodging, you're weaving. That's the whole goal. They want to keep you in that paralyzed state of anxiety and fear. And so I think with that, it's like, I agree with what,
So I think he pulled a fast one over us. He says the quote is taken from Gospel according to Matthew 8:22. I haven't read my Bible in a while, Andre. Cut me some slack.
okay. Yeah. There must've been like a paraphrase. It was I'll have to look up the actual scripture, 8:22, Matthew. I'll take a look. But I know what he's saying there is that we have to focus on those that are in the here and the now, honestly, because there's so many of us, we are divided, and that's the problem. On one side, there's the trauma. On the other side, there's the division, right? But if you can at least have some level of understanding and knowledge, acknowledge the trauma, acknowledge the division, I think at a base level, even if you got 20% of those millions of people to come together, like we see next week. I mean, we got the Reclaiming Conference, people starting to come together and really starting, to meet in person again, to come together and share ideas and put plans of action together, to try and figure out a way of how do we get on the battlefield, but not in a way that that some people want us to happen. It's not going to happen, right? So we're in a situation where there's so many people out there that I have met in my life, and they thought they had no value. They had nothing to contribute. Every single one of them was wrong. Every one of them. So for me, like challenging the negative self-talk when I was younger, I was lucky I had mentors, but to be able to catch the negative self-talk when it starts to enter, and then remind yourself that no, that's not going to define you, right? Because that's what they want. They want you to feel like you're nothing, that you have no value, that you're useless, and you should be hopeless because they've got this game figured out, right? But I've said to you before on numerous times, if this is a controlled demolition, which it kind of looks like it is, the biggest risk that they have in the controlled demolition is they can't do it too fast. Okay, as that's coming down, people are waking up. And I think we're at the point now where there's so many Canadians that know something is wrong with our country, something deeply, deeply wrong with our country. And if we can just overcome some of those divides and start having the courage to get out there and meet people again, to thaw from that freeze that came in 2020, we can move mountains, man. I've been so amazed. I walk into a community, and like I said, whether it's 15 people at first, and then it turns into 250 people, it's once you can have that commonality amongst each other that we experience something. There's a kindred spirit there. But then when you start to realize who can do what, skills intake when you're doing community organizing is one of the most empowering things that I've ever done. Sitting down with people, it's like, what can you do? Nothing. Okay, well, walk me through the jobs you've had in your life. Okay. Transferable skill, transferable skill, transferable skill, transferable skill. And you start to see the flicker of that inner fire start to rage. Not rage, but you know what I'm saying? Is like when people start to realize that they do have something to contribute, it's super powerful, but it's that first step that people need to take to reach out. So if you're listening to this, that's what I encourage you to do. And if you don't know how you fit or where you fit, do your diligence on what you want to get involved in, and reach out, because I guarantee you there's a lot of groups out there right now that could use steady hands, or could just use extra bodies to help out. You never know what the needs are going to be, or what the expectation is of the organization. But do your diligence, right? Don't just hop on and be like, I want to be a part of this. Understand what they're doing, where they came from, what their end goals are, and if it aligns with what you want to see for our country, get involved. You never know what's going to happen, right? At the very least, you'll meet some people that are of like mind in the flesh, handshake, fist bumps, shoulder bumps, even a hug from time to time can help rehumanize people and give them a sense of community. So yeah, that's what I would say in response. But at the same time, I do recognize Mr. Malosh's comment in regards to there are some people that are never going to get on board. They're never going to see it. So let them be focus on those that you know are on the same team.
Um, Next thing I wanted to ask you, and I'm going to stumble through my question, but bear with me. Uh, Battle lines are being drawn politically. I'm not talking about ideologically. I'm talking about the political left parties, so NDP, Liberal in Canada, and the political right party, I guess, Conservative Party in Canada, the Liberal light. But
Center
they,
left. I would call them center
center
left.
left, yeah, yeah. So the the left, I think it's realizing that it doesn't really have that many tools in its toolbox anymore. Like climate change is kind of dying down, so they're leaning heavily into the situation with Israel Palestine, and they're using the word genocide. I'm not here to debate that. Maybe if you agree with it or not, but they are making that like one of the pillars, because it's one thing they identify that they can poach voters from the right to come. If you don't believe in what's going on in Israel, come vote for us. So they're that's one of them. I think LGBTQ is another one. So the NDP just came out and they said that 100 of their voters have to be non-cisgender. I think cisgender means like you and I. My
I think
question to
so.
you, and in addition, I'm assuming it is. However, I don't know if you're a biologist. I'm not either. But the other thing is that municipal governments, they're starting to fall under the umbrella of these political parties. In BC, we start seeing it happening. Uh, what do you think? Do you have hope for the future for independent-minded people like you and I, or is this a foregone conclusion?
Well, I think that it's because it's really hard. I think that that's why I've never been able to like run for office because I know it's impossible to win as an independent, and I have a very hard time. When I had discussions in the past, and they're always like, "Well, but I have this position." They're like, "Well, if you just stay quiet on this position, then we'll let you do this over here." And I'm like, "But that's no, like, why can't I just be me?" Right. And if I want something just so it's like that weird thing. It's like just because I'm on the right, let's just say, right. I run as a conservative. I'm not allowed to agree with anything that the other party says because that's what blasphemy. Like what I don't understand. Like how did we get to that point where we are not working on behalf of all Canadians? That's the problem for me, right? So I agree with you. I think there's a place for independence, right? And I think that there may be a need for another party or some form of organizing independent candidates. And I think that there was a group in BC that was doing that. There was. I helped out in the last election, but again, it's still really hard to be able to cut through because of the machine you're facing. And some people are just like, I vote conservative. They won't even listen to what the other person has to say. I'm blue, I'm red, right? And it's very culty when it comes to those mentalities because you're not thinking. You're letting other people tell you what to think, what you can say, what you can't say. So how much are you really willing to sacrifice as an individual of who you are to be a part of a team? And that's why I'm on team humanity. And I think there is a place for people like yourself and like me to be able to get our voices out there to do things that can be productive to help other people. Like I said, I do my best to help candidates and to help them prepare. Just, I used to be a campaign manager, pick my brain, come at me, right? If you want to build connectivity within a community, here are some hints and tips as far as where you need to start, or at least find out how polarized a community is to give yourself an understanding of a landscape as to whether or not you have all of these different groups that are going to be against you. Does not mean you don't get on the stage. Right, because that's what it is. You're in a volatile landscape where both sides are so polarized, and they're infiltrating on every single level of government and bureaucracy. But that's where the fun comes in, right? Because if you know in your heart, you look at yourself in the mirror, you know that you belong there, that you are going there, wanting to help, genuinely help. You haven't sold your soul along the way. That's what threatens them, right? Can you be bought? What's your price, right? I never had a price. I don't have a price. Don't even bother. You quid pro quo, I'm out. When I sat down for my interview with the speaker, I said the same thing. I don't do quid pro quos. So if you have a good idea or if the other side has a good idea, fantastic. I need to be in the middle to be able to be objective, maintain a sense of agency. And if that's not good enough for you, then thank you, but no thank you, right? And we don't have enough people that are willing to stand on principle and do that. Doesn't have to be necessarily faith-based, but Faith can be very helpful when you have people that are guided by that, right? Because that's a strong sense of conviction. They know who they are, and they're not going to be willing to compromise, right? So I think that there is a place for us, man. I think, but both you and I can agree, we're just figuring out what that is, right? I think the journey is just beginning in many ways, as far as, okay, how do we not let's stop describing the train wreck. How do we live? How do we get out there and be able to contribute in a positive way where we know we're doing good, but also have reasonable expectations of what we may accomplish, because we're only here for a short time. It's a very, very short life we get, right? So you don't want to be consumed by it. You got to learn to be able to experience joy. Again, is another thing too, which I've been, slowly getting back into that kind of realm. But I think something's happening in our country now, where I think we're going to have more opportunities to see people of like-minded abilities to come together and start working on what are some of the solutions, practical solutions that don't include violence and all the rest of that stuff that you see so many people wanting to push for now. We got to be stoic through the storm, buddy. I'll leave it there.
So I'm going to go to Andre Milosh. I think he's taking mercy on us now. He realizes that you and I were not sophisticated intellectuals. So his next comment is funny. He goes, the liberals are like Budweiser. The NDP is like Bud Light. Bloc Québécois is like Budweiser Zero. And the conservatives are like Bud Light Lemonade. Yeah,
yeah.
There's no Grolsch or there's no Heineken, nothing good.
There's nothing that you have a little, you can kind of taste it, but it's not there, right? And I think it's true, right? Like, I think the problem, like, because this is important, right? I think the problem that the PPC has and the CPC has, is they've been fighting. Like, it's been so sad to see the amount of toxicity between the two groups, right? I can understand it. At the same time, it divides the right side of things to the point where there's irreconcilable differences. And that's a huge problem if we ever want to come together as a country, as a moderate and the right, because I do align. I have a lot of traditional values in that sense. But at the same time, there's really no option for Canadians right now, as far as, is there a moderate centrist party? I don't know. I think there might be another one. There's some, again, I think there is, but I just haven't put enough time into looking at it. There's people bringing up, they have ideas, they want to bring them to the table. They're trying to figure out a way of how do we cut through this kind of uniparty thing. How do you cut through the cults, right? You got two cults. You don't want to join any of the cults, right? You don't want to be told how to think. You don't want to be told, but you want to be able to present your ideas to the Canadian people and have them be scrutinized based on merit. What a thought, what a novel concept to be able to introduce an idea and have, an open civil discourse in regards to that. Because I'm always the thing, right? It's like, if I have a position and somebody else disagrees with me, okay, walk me through your thinking on that, because I could be wrong, right? Unless it's principle, right? Like, again, I'm against the transgender stuff. I have my principled positions that you're never going to wrap my head around how that, again, I don't want to get your YouTube stream shut down, so I'll watch my mouth there. But you know how I feel.
Don't make me lose my 10 viewers.
Hey, everyone counts, right? But I think that's what it is we don't have a place to come together for civil discourse. You cannot have a civil situation in this country. You either got to join a team, and then you got to conform. And so where's the gulch, man? Where do people with big ideas and can put the differences aside? Where is it, right? Like, where can we all come together and say, hey, we want to build a better country. We want to actually have control over a country and put limitations on government. Where are we at? Are we too far gone? I don't think so.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I want to tie what you just said, the PPC, CPC, they have to reconcile their differences with what we said earlier, what's our vision for the country? You and I, we're basically centrist. We're in the middle, and we're trying to find a home alliance with either the left or the right. I can talk to a nationalist, which like an authoritarian nationalist. I can talk to an ethno-nationalist about remigration, and we can have, civil back and forth. And I can say, okay, I understand why you have your views. I might even agree with some of them. I wanted something different. I can't do that with the left. Like, somebody who believes in climate change, it's a religious belief system. It's a foundational belief system, and it's not reconcilable with my dreams for limited government. So I can't talk to them. But my point is, I think the left, the middle, the center, and the right, they have to get together and say, what is our vision for the future? How can we negotiate? Maybe we can compromise. All right, done. Let's get a new political party, or let's hijack the Conservative Party. Let's find a way forward.
Send me in, buddy. No, but you're right. Moderate, center left, center right. Why not? Again, it's about that ability to have a discussion with somebody else, to be able to find compromise. I used to be a mediator as well, right? So it's like, yeah, you're not going to get everything you want, but in the end, you're doing it for the best interest of the community. At the same time, knowing that there's give and take on both sides, and right now it's all or nothing with both sides. And no matter who is championing and who's in control, that's not good. The other side, it's not good for either side, when, like what the Liberals have done with the Conservatives and dehumanizing them and all the rest of it, that's not good at all, right? Would I want the Conservatives to get in and start dehumanizing the left? Absolutely not, because we've seen what can happen in history. You start dehumanizing or dismissing opinions because you don't agree with them, or enacting violence against people that do not have the same opinion as you, then we are in a very, very dark time. So that whole idea of, I think, if you actually could get, Nick Nanos, not a co-opted government polling agency at all, but if you could get the actual numbers on how many moderates are there that see there's a problem in our country, how many center left are in our country that have the same thing. They don't necessarily agree with everybody as far as what are those problems, and then you get the center right. Can you imagine? That's probably 60% of the country that's kind of like, okay, it's time for some adulting, because the children have had control of this for far too long.
Yeah. I guess I don't want to dwell on that too much, because it's going to go down a dark path of the don't split the vote and the Operation Cactus, how the Uniparty will snuff it out.
Yeah.
Remanded, first of all, I want to thank you for reposting the stream. Remanded, him and I, we did a live stream the day Charlie Kirk got murdered, and he came on and he said something that was very powerful. Remanded is a middle of the road centrist. He's doing good work. Do you know him? He's doing good work on the BC election fraud.
Absolutely. How you doing, Remy? Good to see you.
And he said, even starting about 5 years ago, when he leaves the house, he's worried about the safety of his wife and kids. When his children go to school, he has to worry about the stuff that his children are being taught, and it's causing a state of anxiety. And he goes, this wasn't there 10 years ago. And I don't think this is not just Remanded. I think it's happening to many Canadians.
Well, I think that's the case, because everything's been inverted. Like, that's the everything happens so fast, and it's weird, because I think the insidious nature of it, right, where I think the systems, the slow crawl was there, and then for whoever blew the horn, it was all at once, right? Parental rights are under attack. We have more crime. They legalize the drugs in BC here. The safe supply. It's like our streets overnight became unsafe. And I worry, like, I don't have kids, but a big part of the reason that I do what I do is because I care about the people that have kids. I can't imagine what it would be like, right? And to have nobody really wanting to address it, or again, it's like lip service. No matter where we are, they're not taking us seriously, because these politicians and bureaucrats, they live in West Vancouver. They live in the British properties. They live in the areas where the police will respond accordingly. There's that division in class. As far as that goes, you've got the elite, and then now, as the middle class is being destroyed, there's just us and them, and that's the problem. Like, historically speaking, I'm not sure. Again, I don't promote violence, but historically speaking, this kind of divide makes it very unsafe for politicians and bureaucrats. Like, when you stop seeing the people that you're supposed to be there for and helping as human, when you don't care that they're feeling unsafe, when you don't care that you're destroying their lives and you're taking everything away, there's a problem there. And is there a way to pull those people back? Well, we see, I think we got lucky here in BC with One BC, with Dallas Brody, Tara Armstrong, just having the ability for them to be out there and speaking, so that there's somebody that the people can identify with, because the BC Conservatives here, again, full of ex-liberals. Again, it's a uniparty. Like, I know John Rustad, I was a pain in the ass, huge pain in the ass, when he was Minister of Aboriginal Relations for Christy Clark back in the day, right? And so I have my concerns about him. And then now, ever since he's been elected, of course I don't support him. Like, he said the right things, to get into the leadership, to get into that position, but you've abandoned. We saw what happened with Dallas, and now it's like, as soon as he gets elected, boom, this opinion, this opinion, this opinion, will not tolerate it in our party. So, but you don't see a lot of those examples right now where you have sitting MLAs that have, or members of parliament that have the ability to speak to what Canadians are actually feeling and the plight that they're going through. So when you take away hope, it's like Gerald Celente said, when people have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And I think that we are at a very precarious situation there, where I'm hopeful that cooler minds can prevail, but something's got to change, because we're, the divide between the elite and the rest of us is so massive now that, historically speaking, it's not good. Not good for the plight of the people on the ground, nor for the politicians that think they're better than everybody. It's not a good situation. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
No, I agree. Let's go to Andre Milosiesh that has a question for you. Let's be more serious. Here's a question for Mr. Eriksen. In his opinion, can alternative media be united? And what strategies could be used to attract independent bloggers and encourage them to work together?
Kind of yes, I believe so. Who you would categorize as alternative media and independent media, because I think some of the alternative, I'm not going to name them today, but some of what would be classified as alternative media in our country is technically not. They have a script, they have an agenda. They're not like grassroots. They're not unbiased in their approach to how they go about it. So, but when you look at the generalization of it, I firmly believe independents can come together. That's kind of what I'm doing with Nightcall. On Sunday, I'm bringing together all of the X-Space hosts to platform them. Like, again, Nightcall is just a bus. I have a few rules, but I want to be able to help promote people and get, build their audiences so people can, we can work together. And again, I don't agree. Like, I've blocked a couple people. We've unblocked each other with some of the space hosts that are coming on through the years. But we're good, right? Because our differences were in the moment. We had a moment, right? And so we reconciled, and I have no problem, in helping them out. And I think they're good people. They do care. And then on the 28th, I'm doing the same thing for podcasters. And I'm going to keep doing that every month, doing roundtables with people to try and help. And I think by doing that, right, you have all the X-Space hosts on. Okay, you guys keep talking, right? You want to have guests, you want to do shows, use your network to work together, your networks to work together to make your shows more appealing to Canadians, and the same thing with the podcasters for guests and stuff like that, right? I'll try and bring them together. I'm not looking to micromanage or there's no quid pro quos in any of this outside of, don't air your grievances within the community or on the show. But I think that's where we really have to start, because there's so much power there. Everyone's got an audience. Everyone's got, these podcasters yourself. You've got an audience. I have an audience. JP Berg has an audience. We see a lot of them out there. So how do we come together? And the part about it is like, people understand you can have civil discourse, right? That's the thing about being an independent. I'm curious. I want to know what you're thinking. And if we have differences, that's fine. But we're not going to throw chairs at each other and start, doing the narcissistic game of he doesn't like me, or he said this to me, so now everyone has to hate that guy. It's like, no, there's children in independent media as well too. But I think there's something to be said about Mr. Milosie's comment. I firmly agree that just don't allow things to be co-opted. Keep it neutral, keep it objective. Don't pick favorites. If people are out there doing good work, try and bring people together. I'd love to see a conference of independent media all coming together, figuring out how do we have developed strategies, understand when we're on, what topics we cover. That's what I think it is. We're so scattered right now that people just don't know. And so as a starting point for me, that's what I want to do. I want to try and, like I said, this Sunday, X-Space hosts, 28th, podcasters, check your egos at the door, ideally. But there's work that can be done to build each other's networks and support each other, regardless of whether you agree 100% or not with an individual, right? Thank you for the question, Andre. Very important. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Andre and we co-host a show on Saturdays, and this is one of the things that we talk about. Some people have come up with some solutions. Jason James, he's trying to go through Substack. Substack is it's a little more direct, right? There's less censorship. Mm-hmm. Our friend Timothy Knight, he's proposing his own publication solution called Rubicon Free Press. It's basically like a scaled down version of X with no censorship. So people are they're groping their way around the dark. They're looking for the light switch of freedom.
I'd love to discuss it more, and with what you guys are doing. Like every month, I'm going to be doing a podcaster thing. So for next month, for October, if you guys are available, let's talk behind the scenes. How do we bring you guys on, and let's have that discussion. How do we come together, right? So I would be I would love it. I'd be an honor to drive the bus that night and have a chat amongst, as many as we can get on for that night. So for sure.
I'll send a group DM for that. I just mentioned that in passing. Let me go to Cold Deck. I think a problem is most people don't have the bandwidth for politics. Most people I talk to get triaged by words like socialist, communist, Marxist, for also debt and money is a weapon. What's your comments?
I agree. Right. I think that's like figuring out a way that you can connect without the polarization is I think the trick. I use the term globalists a lot. With my mom, I just call them communists just because the generational gap. She understands that in that sense. What's a globalist? And it's like kind of like a communist, but with more finesse,
more globally,
flair, more globally. Yeah, exactly. But they think about people the same way and they use the same tactics. Oh, okay. But I think that's what it is that we are into that. The more that I step back and I look at things, like I'm also like, I don't want to be contributing to that. I think that, I do put a lot of stuff out there that's observations. I do believe that the globalists have infiltrated our government. I do believe we have a uniparty. But in doing that, I'm also like, I'm not saying I'm not doing that anymore, but the frequency of my attempts, I'm down to maybe like 15-20% of what I used to do as far as putting it out there. They're all in it together kind of thing, right? Because I think something's lost in it as well too. I'm alienating people. I'll have conservatives unfollow me one day and then follow me again because it's like, I'm offending their cult leader. They're not happy about that. So, but if I attack Mark Carney, it's like, yeah, everyone's friends again. So I want to kind of get away from that and kind of stay in the middle and stay focused on trying to promote and help people come together primarily. But that is a very good point, right? Like the debt and money, like people are in a lot, they just want to escape. They really do. Like a lot of people are just like, they have two jobs, or both parents are working. They have kids, they have, whatever disposable income, if they have any left. They just want to be able to relax and enjoy life. And I think that's a big problem, because something's happening in our country and we need you. So how do you communicate to those people to be able to even get 5 or 10% of their time each week to contribute, right? And educating people like that. I think I'd go back to Mr. Malosha's thing. People that are sound asleep, it's very hard. Like, what's your starting point, right? Like, oh, okay. Do you know who the WEF is? What? Right? Like, no one's going to understand it. So until it's on their table, and it might be now because there's less food on the table for most people, considering the inflation and what we see is happening, right? So it's becoming real for people. And I think they will slowly start to peek their head over the fence, like in Home Improvement. Wilson's like, okay, what's going on over there? Because, I'm spending $500 and I get food for a week. What are you talking about? I used to fill my fridge for a month. My freezer would be full, right? So it's becoming real for people. But as that happens, we have to be ready to be neutral in that sense of as far as understanding what you're going through, and not bombard them with a whole bunch of globalist conspiracy, to frighten the crap out of them. It's like, no. How do you want to get involved locally? How do we come together and figure out, what's, again, it's going to be one of those things where people are slow rolling. It's no different than when they did the COVID thing. I'm not going to get too into it, but there were people that thought they were doing the right thing. And they found out that, they made a decision. They alienated family members and friends because the government told them A, B, and C, or they also participated in what was happening. And I've always had that. It's like, yeah, no, I didn't participate, but unless you want to be in a camp, let's roll, right? Do you have to be able to mend fences where we possibly can, not judge people as a totality? And I think that's where, when you're in the middle, you have that ability, because I still see people on the left as human, even if they're very much indoctrinated, right? No, I wouldn't want them in a trench. I wouldn't want them standing behind me. Of course not, right? There's the radicals on both sides, right? But the vast majority of Canadians, I think, are good people. They're just misled, and they've been programmed and conditioned by the media and government to put their elbows up whenever they're told, even if they don't even know what it means at the time or what they're supporting. They just want to be good Canadians, and not realizing that they're helping the other side divide us. And so we have to be crafty. Like I said earlier, we have to learn to dance in the minefields, and we're still learning that. How do we do that every day? But I still get up, I smile because I got another day, and I'll figure out, what have I accomplished today? I've done some good things, right? I'll be happy with that, right? And I'll check myself before the end of the night, before I go to sleep. Where am I at? If I have to go down to the beach again and talk with the universe and the moon, then I will do that to keep myself grounded through these storms. So yeah, good comment though. It's true.
I I won't go in too deep into it, but I've stopped using. There's a scene in The Office where Michael Scott's like, these are just words; they don't mean anything. So I've kind of just stopped using words that have a complex meaning, like communist, Marxist, socialist. You just can't, because people get angry. So that's why I default back to saying I want to live in a Canada where 90% of decisions are made by families. It's a lot harder to trigger people with that.
Yeah. That's honestly, that's a very healthy way. And I might even actually take a page from your book in that. I've been, again, it's like when I put posts out, I've said before, it's like I put posts out in a sense because I'm using my empathy. If this is how I feel, I kind of want to know, where is everybody at? And it gives me an idea as far as what does the landscape look like through multiple lenses, right? But I'm also in the situation where I understand that, using some of the terminology I use is also taking away the last hope that many Canadians may have. And so what right do I have to do that, right? I want people to be awake because I want you to have a backup plan if you're wrong. I'm using that with regards to Conservatives. They get very upset when I suggest that their party is not working in our interests. And so I, take that part of being, I guess you want to say, a leader, because I don't view myself as one. I think everyone's walking together. I don't have followers. I'm just me. But at the same time, I know that my words have to be responsible with that. And so, like I said, I toned it down from 5 or 6 posts a day calling out the globalist uniparty to now just every couple of, maybe I think I did one, either today or yesterday. So it's not like a part of my machine anymore because I have a lot of conservative friends, right? And if that's what you think is the path forward that's going, you firmly believe it. And for me to take that away from you, I don't want to scare you. I just kind of want to remind you, hey, if you're wrong, have a backup plan, take care of your family. Because if you don't, and you're my neighbor and you're not prepared, then now you're a threat to me. So let's not put ourselves in that situation. Be prepared. Let's get through the storms where we can. And I don't want to, again, I'm not a rage poster. I'm not a rage whatever they call it, clickbait guy. But I also know that you have to be responsible. And if I'm saying something that is alienating and preventing dialogue, then I need to reflect and change, make the changes like you're doing to try not to go there. What's my position as opposed to describing the train and the train wreck. We have to get to the part is, okay, but this is what I believe. This is, and there's more commonality that can be found there, and you'll find more people want to walk with you than when you are being polarizing with your language. So I have lots of respect for that, for what you do.
So I guess we've gone over an hour, but man, this was a good episode. So it was intentionally longer than usual, and I want to end it where we started, which was with Mr. Charlie Kirk. I think this is my opinion, and I didn't follow him religiously, but I think he did something very valuable. He identified that these university campuses are incubation centers for indoctrinating and brainwashing the youth. So he went in there and he had the courage to talk to them in a way that I wouldn't. I'd either run away or I'd get into a fist fight. And I think that's commendable what he did. But some people say that his views are extreme. He's a religious zealot, or I don't know. They just disagreed with him. He's putting people at risk. How did you see Mr. And you can see it either way. How did you see what Mr. Kirk's legacy, what it would be?
Well, I followed him for a long time. I very rarely did I share anything. I actually can't remember any time that I actually shared. And I would listen to him at some of the Republican conventions and other things like that. I would listen to him speak, and I noticed him a while back. It's like, okay, this guy seems to have the tools to communicate. He seems like a really nice guy. And some of the polarizing positions he may have, they're polarizing because he's faith-based, right? He's very great. He was very grounded in his faith. So I don't see his positions. I think that an American should have the right to be able to have those positions without fearing for his life. And what he did for the youth, like you can see over the years, the crowds just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And he would talk to anybody, right? He wouldn't get in their face. There's no clips out there from my understanding. And I've seen a lot of clips over the past couple of days in regards to, that you have the Steven Crowders that are just like, whatever. He's, again, I'm only comparing them just based on the discourse and how they went about it, right? But Charlie Kirk seemed to have it down. He knew what he believed in. He was a man of God, had a young family, and he was connecting with the younger generation and older generations, right? He's 31, so I got 20, almost 20 years on the guy. But I'm looking at him and going, okay, that could be a future president because of his demeanor, his willingness to listen to the other side, his willingness to have open debate and stand by his principles as far as what he believes. And I think that's probably why he was such a threat, was because he was a moderate. He was not somebody they could easily just dismiss as being extreme on this side, extreme on that side. I encourage a lot of people, right? Like, I don't know him, but I felt like I do. Like, he was one of those guys. I never met him, never had any interactions with him on X, but it hit me in a way that I didn't think it would, right? It's like when you start to really look at this young adult, young man, there was something special about him. And the world, I'm hoping that North America can unite under that message of moderation. You can have differences of opinions. You should be able to share those opinions and not lose your life because of it. And to see, his life cut short, his legacy is going to live on. And who I feel most for, obviously, is his family. But this up and coming, these youth, so many of them looked up to him. And they really were getting behind his message and what he stood for. So I feel really sad for the young adults and the youth in America that really don't have any leaders right now that they can look up to like they could Mr. Kirk. And so it's going to be some very big shoes to fill. And I don't think you're going to be able to fill them, but hopefully a lot of the people that he talked to, as they grow, they want to be like Charlie Kirk, get out there, just don't dehumanize the other side, have dialogue, and be the good person that you want to be. So did I agree with everything Charlie Kirk said? No. You know me, I don't agree with 100% with anybody. Did I resonate with his language and the way he carried himself? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I felt his loss far deeper than I thought I would. And it's still heavy today. I'll be thinking about him for quite a while, as far as how many other people can you point to that were like him in America or like him in Canada? Can you point to anyone that's like him in Canada? For me, I don't think so. If I'm missing somebody, you let me know. But we have we're lacking a lot of young leaders that are able to help shepherd, in a way, shepherd these generations of kids that are up and coming that need it so desperately. Not to have them tell people how to think, but leaders that can stand their ground, voice what their opinions are without fear. I think that there's a huge gap, a huge loss, with what happened to him. And I'm just hopeful that people can step back and learn from him, learn from his message, carry his message forward, and not devolve into what we see people celebrating. We see people calling for war. It's not a time for either. Don't celebrate, don't call for war, learn from this, right? That's all I'm hoping that people will do, step back and come together on it. We need to come together. If a moderate like him can't have a voice, we're in trouble. So hopefully it brings people together.
No, excellently put. I'll just go last comment, Cold Deck Payment. And Kris, you're doing a great job. Thanks for the work. Liked and subscribe. Thanks, Cold Deck.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. So no offense to anybody other podcasts and shows I go on.
Hey, I'm right here, bro.
No, I mean it. Like you're the way you carry yourself, Payman, the work you're doing, the endless hours you're putting in. It's a shame. Like, if anyone's watching this, follow Payman. He deserves a much more eyes on the work that he's doing, and anything I can do to help you with that, man, you let me know. And like I said, we'll talk behind the scenes, and hopefully this is just the first of, not the first, but hopefully we'll keep doing this. And anytime you have somebody who drops out, feel free to ask me if I'll fill the gap, and I'll definitely show up if I can. So thanks again,
Sounds
man.
good.
I appreciate your work and keep doing what you're doing. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much, Chris. But before you go, can you tell the audience where they can follow you? You know, you got that new night call.
Yeah, night call. It's intentionally mysterious as far as that goes. But yeah, I'm hosting. You can find me at K Eriksen V2 on X. That's the only platform I'm on. It's KERIKSEN V2 at X. We have a community group there. I just like I say, keep it simple. You don't have to be a part of the night call community to be able to be a part of the show and stuff like that. I understand sometimes community groups aren't for that. If you join the community group, don't air your grievances. No broad brushes when it comes to race and religion. It's mainly there to share podcasts, share spaces, and positive content. Slow rolling that. And every Sunday night, I host X Spaces. And this Sunday, like I said, we got a bunch of people, X Space hosts coming on. Going to drive the bus for a few hours with them and let them who they are, where they're at. You know, it's all about coming together. And I have no misplaced sense of importance in this, payment, but I want to help everybody, but I can't be there every day. But I'll be there for you. You know, if you ever need.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. Go ahead and follow Mr. Eriksen, and be sure to check out his spaces every Sunday. They're pretty fun. All right, Chris. Until the next time, I'll keep you over until after we'll talk backstage. But thanks, a big thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Until next time.